I'm Kha Gai. That's right, this spicy soup is the perfect use for leftover Thanksgiving turkey for like a million reasons. But let me give you just 3 off the top of my head. First, it's very fast and easy. Secondly, it's very nutritious with incredible restorative powers. I mean, this stuff's like borderline medicine. And third, most important, it's the complete polar opposite of what you had for your Thanksgiving meal. So for me, this is the perfect recipe to use up those last scraps of turkey, and this is how you do it. So of course, besides the leftover turkey meat, we're going to need some kind of stock or broth. And of course, you could just use a carton of chicken broth, but I'm guessing you got some turkey bones around, so you could just make your own like I did. And if you're not sure how to do that, go watch our chicken stock video. And then a short 10 hours later, I had a beautiful, beautiful turkey stock, which I strained. So that's something you're going to have to do before you start this recipe, or like I said, you could just use carton broth. But either way, we're going to transfer about 6 cups of that into my pot, and we're going to place that on medium-high heat and bring it up to a simmer. And while we're waiting for that to happen, let's go ahead and prep the first wave of the ingredients. So we're going to start with one of the signature flavors of this soup, lemongrass. So I'm going to trim off the bottom. And if you've never worked with this stuff before, it's very tough and woody. And what we want to do first is give it a little pounding with the back of the knife. And apparently that helps release a lot of the flavor, or so I've been told. And once we've given that a little beat down, we're simply going to slice it up like this. And don't worry about precision knife skills. This is all going to get strained out. So we're going to slice up some lemongrass. And then we're also going to slice up some ginger root, which, by the way, is not the authentic ingredient in this. They use something called galanga root, which is similar but not exactly the same. And I'll talk about that in the blog. But anyway, we're going to slice up some ginger root, which brings us to the next aromatic ingredient, some lime leaves. Except I don't have lime leaves, but I do have a Meyer lemon tree, and the smaller, younger leaves off that will work. But if you can find the lime leaves, I think they're called kaffir lime leaves. Those are what you really want to use. So we're going to slice up a little bit of lemon or lime leaf. And then last but not least, a little bit of cilantro stem. We're going to use the leaf to finish the soup at the end, but I do like to include some of the stems in the broth. And at that point, we can go ahead and transfer that all into our turkey stock, along with some dried chilies for heat. Now, we're really supposed to be using those little red dry Thai chilies, but these regular chili flakes will work, and we'll give that a stir. And as soon as that comes up to a simmer, we will lower our heat a little bit, down to like medium-low, and we'll simmer this between 20 and 30 minutes. Okay, we really want to infuse that stock with all those beautiful aromatic flavors. So we'll let that simmer while we prep the last of the ingredients. The first of which would be some mushroom. And you can pretty much use anything you want in this, but I really like these little brown mushrooms, which in the stores I go to are usually sold as clamshell mushrooms. But I'm pretty sure they have another name. I mean, everything does. And to prep these, all we need to do is slice off the bottom, which holds all those little stems together, and they will separate. And that's pretty much it, okay? So our mushroom set, and then of course we're going to need some leftover turkey. Unattractive and completely unappetizing at this point, but that's okay. We're going to slice this and cube it up and bring it back to life, and then some. And one of the secrets here is you want to cube this kind of small. This stuff's not going to cook in the soup that long, so we want it small to absorb the flavors. Plus, and I know this would never happen to any of you because you watch the channel, but just for the sake of argument, let's say your turkey was a little dry. If you cut this up kind of small at this point, no one will be able to tell it's dry in the soup, okay? So our mushrooms and our turkey are ready, and we'll head back over to the stove, where by now my stock has simmered for about 25 minutes. And before we add the mushrooms and the turkey in, I'm going to do one optional, but extremely, extremely required step. I'm going to take one of these skimmer strainers and remove all those ingredients from the broth. They've served their purpose, and for me, just get in the way when you're trying to eat this. In the restaurants, they don't care. They figure you can just eat around it, which is fine. But I think it's much nicer and user-friendly if you strain it out. So that's what I'm doing here. But that's up to you. You are the whatever the word in Thai for boss is of your soup. And at this point, whether you strain or not, we're going to go ahead and add in our mushrooms and our turkey. We're also going to add in a little bit of sugar. You can just use white sugar. I'm going to use palm sugar because I have it, and I believe that's what they use over there. But we do need a little bit of sweetness to balance the lime juice that's coming later. And we're also at this point going to add some fish sauce. So a couple tablespoons of that. We will adjust that later, of course, as we will all these flavors. And we'll give that a stir. And then what we want to do is let that simmer for about 10-15 minutes. So those mushrooms cook a little bit and that turkey absorbs the flavors of the broth. And while we're waiting, we can get together one of the last major and most important ingredients, some fresh lime juice. And I usually don't show steps like squeezing lime juice, but this was just so beautiful looking I thought I would share. So we're going to want to squeeze some fresh lime juice. And then we'll head back over to the stove. And once our mushrooms and turkey have simmered for about 10 to 15 minutes, we're ready for the final steps. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and dump in our coconut milk. That's 1 can of regular coconut milk. I'm also going to throw in a little bit of green onion and chopped cilantro. And we'll stir that in. Oh, and by the way, you people that don't like cilantro, don't eat cilantro, hate cilantro, You can substitute basil in this. It's fine. Well, it's not fine, but you can do it, okay? And then last but not least, our fresh lime juice. And as soon as this comes back to temperature, as soon as it's piping hot again, you're ready to serve. Except there is one last thing I'm going to add in here, and that would be a little bit of chili oil. Now we are going to use this to garnish the bowls of soup, but I do like to stir in a little bit here, just in case my guests are wimps and they wouldn't add any on their own. It also warms up that color a little bit. And of course you can buy chili oil, but if you read the post, I'm going to explain how to do it yourself. It's super easy. And once that was stirred in, I was ready to serve. Of course I'm going to taste and adjust the seasonings though. You might want more lime or more sugar or more heat. Other than maybe a little bit of salt in your stock, the fish sauce was the only source of salt, so check for that. Maybe you want to add a little more. Maybe you want to put a little pinch of regular salt in. Up to you. And once that tastes exactly how you want it, let's go ahead and ladle it up. I like to serve mine with a little extra cilantro and lime on the side. We'll drizzle some more of that chili oil over the top, and that Kha Gai is done. And while the phrase exploding with flavor is horribly overused and almost always hyperbole, in this case it's actually true. Spicy, sweet, sour, salty, savory, you name it, it's in here. Just a fantastically delicious soup and a great way to use up those leftovers. I mean, I'm not sure what you'll be thinking about while you're eating this soup, but I know one thing you won't be thinking. I'm eating leftover turkey. This stuff is so tasty and different, that will not even cross your mind, okay? So I really do hope you give this a try. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.